I'm Jason with Saving Sally, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video we're going to be covering tire paint. More specifically, this video is about white letter tires. There are a few that are still out there, but the options are pretty limited, particularly on the size of tire that I was looking for my car. I couldn't find any at all, so if I wanted white letter tires, I was going to have to come up with a way to make my own. It's kind of a side note, it seems like back in the day when white letter tires were common and were easily available, people used to take black shoe polish and color out the white lettering to make their tires entirely black. And now that pretty much black tires is all that's available, at least some people, certainly I'm one of them, are now looking for white letter tires. So I spent the next several evenings looking for ways that people ahead of me have gone out and tried to make some white letter tires. They were buying these tire paint pens that were specifically made for tires and painting the letters themselves. And without fail, they pretty much all had the same complaints. The paint tip is usually rounded, and so it's difficult to do sharp corners. There was not enough paint inside of these pens. The paint markers seemed to dry out very rapidly. Uneven flow, so you'd get the paint flowing out of the paint marker and be flowing along quite nicely, then all of a sudden begin to dry up. Apply just a little bit of pressure to the paint marker to get the paint to flow again, and suddenly you flooded your sidewall of your tire, and now you have to clean it all up and start over. The paint doesn't last very long. It tended to crack and discolor. For me, paint markers and paint pens were just not in the cards, not on the table. I figured that the paint that's going into these pens is probably available somewhere else, and that I can more than likely find a way to buy it not inside of these pens. And I did. I found this Ranger brand premium tire paint. Now they market this stuff as for painting sidewalls, but it is made to go on rubber, specifically rubber tires. And as far as I was concerned, that seemed like the most logical product to use that I could paint these letters with, but didn't work out. Let me get into the details of that. Now the results initially were pretty good. The paint went on well, it looked fantastic, and if it had stayed looking that way, I would have been super happy and probably willing to do this on any subsequent set of tires that I might buy to replace on the car, maybe if I scratched them on a curb or something. Yeah, it was a lot of work, a little bit of time consuming, but man, the results were great. It looked fantastic. I was able to use a chisel tip brush. I was able to get into sharp corners without an issue. The paintbrush held onto the paint really well. Drips and spills were just not a factor. It was a pleasant process painting it on, aside from taking a lot of time. As a matter of fact, by all appearances, until you got right up against the tire, it appeared that these tires had come from the manufacturer with these white and red letters painted right onto the tires. I was convinced that I had actually found a solution to the problems that people were having with the paint markers, and I couldn't wait to upload this video and tell everybody about an easier way. That wasn't going to happen. It wouldn't be until the next day that I began to realize that I had a bigger problem on my hands. Overnight in my driveway, the white paint had begun to turn brown, and the red paint had become fairly dark. So dark, in fact, that it was actually hard to notice that it was actually even on there. At this point, I pulled the tires back off, and I added a third coat. I believed perhaps the solvents that were in the paint were causing a situation where the pigments in the rubber were able to be pulled into that paint. I wasn't for certain, so I'd hoped a third coat would solve the problem. Got all the tires out, brought them back inside the house. If you're not painting tires in your house on your car restoration project, are you really even trying? I mean, are you really? I had the tires all set up in the house, and I painted a third coat, and once again, they looked like $1 million. Took them back outside and remounted them to the car, but it was not to be. The next day, the same problem. So the paint was a no-go for holding its color. I began to do some research to try to find maybe there was an alternative paint, something else that I could use. There may be something out there. Certainly, the tire manufacturers did it, and whatever it is that they used, you would think you would be able to find and do it on your own, but I haven't found that. If you have the answer, please let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll try this again on a smaller scale to see if it's going to work. During that time, I was driving the car some. I do enjoy driving the car every now and then. And after about 50 miles of driving, not only was the paint browning out or becoming so dark on the reds it was unnoticeable, but it was peeling off. It just did not bond well to the rubber. Now at this point of the project, I was pretty disheartened. I'd had several days of time invested in painting these letters, rinsing the paintbrushes, just a huge expenditure of time, only to have paint that wouldn't hold its color and that wouldn't stick to the tire. And so after a little bit of searching, I just had an idea, and it came to me that there is white Flex Seal, and I thought maybe this stuff will do the deal. And if it will work, there's also a red Flex Seal, although not available in this type can. So the good news is that it painted on better. I was only needing one coat of this stuff. I think that's because it just goes on thicker. But yeah, a single coat. It didn't lay quite as smoothly. It was a little bit more textured, but it certainly passed the 5-foot rule. The downside is that it also browned. Now, it did stay on for, I've probably put 300 miles on the car since putting it on there, and it has stayed on without an issue. I suspect it may even be possible to go through car washes that scrub your wheels and tires as you go without it coming off, because it does bond better, but it doesn't hold its color. So again, I'm gonna call the Flex Seal a failure in terms of what I'm looking for. So why did the project fail? Well, I can say that it is 100% not because of prep work. The paint came with didn't really come with a lot of instructions, but the one set of instructions that it had was to be sure and scrub your tire with hot soap and water. I used a brush, I used a rag, I did use hot soapy water, and I rinsed it very well, and I let it dry thoroughly. Painted it on, and to no avail. It still peeled off, still turned brown. As far as the Flex Seal goes, it was the same situation there with the exception of the peeling. That just does not hold its color and doesn't look the way that I had intended for it to look. So I'm just going to say that it had nothing to do with the prep work. I even went so far as to try using acetone on some of the letters. Acetone seemed to have no real impact on the rubber that I could notice. It didn't seem to help the paint bond any better, or the Flex Seal to bond any better. So I'm going to call that one a wash. I think the acetone may work for people maybe who are trying to get other things that maybe they've added to their tires. For example, tire shine, something of that nature. That also wasn't a factor. I bought these tires brand new. Perhaps the failure occurred because the tires were too new. Maybe those rubbers have solvents in them that have to gas out with time. I'm not sure. This is just speculation. Perhaps there's some sort of release agent that's put in the molds that the paint doesn't want to stick to allow the tires to pop out. Again, pure speculation. I don't know. I would think that release agent wouldn't have been an issue with the cleaning and prep work that I had done, but I am just spitballing. It's possible that if you had a set of tires that were a year, maybe 2 years old, this wouldn't have been an issue. But again, it is 100% speculation. Kind of wrapping it up, this was way too time consuming. And even if I had a product that were guaranteed to work, I don't know that I would go through the trouble to do it again. Maybe. I'm kind of on the fence about that. It's a huge project and pretty disappointing. And so I've just kind of accepted that I'm going to be looking at black wall tires, unless some of you manufacturers out there watching my channel and feel sorry for me and want to send me a set of white letter tires. If you do, let me know in the comments. I'll get you my address. Something else you may have noticed. I have, in addition to the new tires, I also had new wheels. Now, the original factory wheels, there was nothing wrong with them structurally. They did have a little bit of curb rash, but the paint was badly faded, as well as the clear coat. The cost that was going to be associated with getting those wheels into a like new condition was not that far off from a full-on replacement. Hawks Motorsports offers a 17-inch factory reproduction, and so I went with that. There is a video coming out about those wheels as well, so if you're enjoying the channel, following along because maybe you're restoring one of these cars, you definitely don't want to miss that review video. It's basically just the first impressions of the wheels, where I'll show you some close-ups, some side-by-side comparisons and things of that nature. So make sure you are subscribed if you want to watch that. Outside of that, that's going to wrap up this video, and until next time, this is Jason, and this is Saving Sally.